Hi everyone, it's Theo from Spectrum Gardening. So the past little while you've probably been seeing me build the infrastructure for our garden, the arbors, the garden beds, and trellises inside the greenhouse. However, there's one thing I haven't been showing, and that's kind of the yard in general. To say it's been a mess is a bit of an understatement. If some of you watched the first video that we did of the tour of the backyard, you saw how overgrown it was and how basically unusable it was. It was basically a jungle that we had to crawl through, and I will link that video at the end of this one. So we had a bobcat come in and take out a lot of the probably about this much of the soil, maybe even more in some areas, because we had such a bad issue of ivy, English ivy, and bamboo, that I basically said, like, everything from there that's not tagged with yellow tags, just rip out. And which he did, and then we filled it, we backfilled it with 42 yards of fill. However, we did that in the fall, the late summer of last year, and I haven't touched the yard space at all since then. And in the spring, we've been busy with our business, so I haven't had much of an opportunity. However, now that things have slowed down a little bit, I'm actually going to be cleaning it up so I can actually be sowing microclover, because we want it to be green and we want it to look nice. However, I don't want to mow it. I don't want any maintenance or anything like that with it at all. So I've started on about one back corner of the yard, and I'm slowly kind of doing it by section. So let's kind of take a look at what I've done so far and what my next part of the project is going to be. So I have started cleaning up in this part here. So you can see my currants over here. I'm kind of making a little corner with all the plants that my wife had when she was growing up in Russia, in this kind of part this here. I know it doesn't look like it has a lot of sun, but this is actually one of the stunnier spots of our yard. It's just right around 7 o'clock. It's about 7:45 right now that it starts getting shaded out. So you can see I've started on this corner and it looks much better compared to where I showed you before. I'm actually going to be leaving that part to the very last, just because I don't want to do it. It's too much work. I don't want to do it. But you can see I'm just kind of cleaning up the debris. I'm not really trying to weed it too much. I'm just like cleaning it up, and I'm leveling out the ground a little bit where needed, just so we don't have any big divots or big holes. One thing that I will mention though, when we moved here, this Douglas fir was covered in ivy, just covered, and you can still see it's still clinging on there a little bit. But what we did, we went to the bottom of it and we cut it all off on the bottom, like there. You can see how it's there. You can also see how it's regrowing. But the reason we did that is because we didn't want to pull the ivy off when it was still alive and potentially hurt the tree, because other than the ivy, it's a very healthy tree. So we've left it like that, and one of the things I have to do is come out and pull out all this ivy, and I'm also going to take out this rhododendron stump. Another thing that I need to do is take out this rhododendron stump. When we were clearing the backyard before, we did want to keep the rhododendron, but it was so overgrown that it literally had branches all the way up here and no growth down here. So we cut it back in hopes that it would regrow from the bottom. However, that wasn't the case, and it's just simply died. So I will have to pull that out. What I'll probably do is dig down and cut it with a sawzall or something. So you can see that the ivy isn't such a big issue anymore. There's a few spots of it that I'll have to deal with, but it's actually not as bad as it was. And if we take a look over here, there's a little patch of more weeds. I will pull out most of the bigger ones by hand. And then over here, it's actually not too bad. It's just the fence line basically that it needs to be worked on. But if we come closer over here, there's a whole bunch of grass and buttercups over there. The buttercups I'm not worried about at all. I'll just kind of keep them from invading my raised beds over there, and I'll just let them be. But the big thing is going to be these hops. These hops are just choking out a hydrangea and another tree, and they just simply, they've got to go. As much as I would like to have them climbing all over this arbor, doing such a number on both of these trees, that they got to go. I got to take them out. So when I finish up on the back over there, I already started in the back corner over there. You can kind of see the progress. And when I slowly work all over here, I will take out those hops eventually. The first thing I'll want to do is get rid of all the ivy and all the ground cover so I can actually see what I'm working with the stump, and then I'll be able to cut it out. My goal is to get as much root system from the ivy as possible, because as you can see, it's quite extensive. It doesn't have very deep roots. It's mostly all on the surface, but it spreads very quickly, and it can strangle out plants. And you can see how it's sprouting from its roots. So I'm sure I'm gonna have to come back to this area again, either in a few months' time, and I'm sure it's going to take a couple years maybe even to eradicate all the ivy from the yard. However, if I can take out as much as possible now, as big as pieces as possible, it's just going to be basically pulling out little pieces just to kind of keep it in check, and then after a while it's not going to have the energy stored in the root system to keep coming back. Check out this piece. You can see it's been cut off up here. This is the whole root system here, and from this bottom part of the root it's growing leaves, and then this part was buried along there, and that's growing leaves. And then if we go to this root over here and we trace it all the way over here, we've got more leaves. And this is one of the biggest reasons, well, not one, it's the biggest reasons why you should never plant ivy. This plant will take over if you give it an inch. Let's go check out what I found hiding behind the tree. Look at what we got over here. That's another main ivy plant. I don't take out this one. Now for the fun part. It's out. Now I can just backfill and tidy up the rest of the area. I can honestly say I'm surprised at how fast it's all going. If you saw, I've got that side pretty much all clear now. I still have to rake it out and kind of level it a little bit, but it's not taking me nearly as long as I thought it would. challenge of the yard so far. The big issue was getting the hops off of these two trees without killing them. You probably noticed in one part of the video that a big chunk of the hydrangea just came out. I was hoping to save it and tie it to the post over there, but it basically had no root structure. So I was lucky, and there's still a little bit left over there, and I'm sure it'll fill out. So for this one over here, the hops are so intertwined on the tops of it, it's going to be nearly impossible to get them off without hurting the plant. So what I've done is I've gone to the bottom of it, and I've cut the hops all along the bottom, and I'm going to wait till the hops die and dry out, and then they're going to be much easier to take off. Hopefully, we'll see. I finished cleaning up one half of the backyard, but before we take a look at what I did there, I want to show you how much debris I pulled out of just that one section. So this trailer is 14 feet long by 8 feet wide, and what's mostly in there is ivy, deadfall, and hops. That's what it basically consists out of. The deadfall is from the fall, and it's like dead branches, twigs, and stuff like that. It's left over from the fall and the winter. So I'll get out of the shot so you can take a quick look of just how much debris has filled up that trailer so far. I originally started in this corner over here, and I worked my way across over here. I cleaned up a little bit behind the greenhouse, but it wasn't actually too bad. It was mostly just deadfall in this area here. I cleaned up a little bit around here too. It was mostly just, like, as I said before, deadfall in this area. Either broken branches, twigs, pine cones, things like that. It was by this Douglas fir, and in this area over here, that's where most of the ivy came from. The ground looks so much clearer than before. So I had to move our food digester and our composter to work on the other part over there. It's when we moved here, they were buried in soil. So I will probably set up the food digester, which is that green thing right over there. The composter, I'm not sure what we're going to be doing with, but I'm kind of just hanging on to it just for now. And then over here was this fence line was just covered in ivy. And when we had the bobcat here, he kind of had to push up all the soil that he was working on in the yard up to the fence. He tried to pull it back as much as he could, but there was only so much he could do with a big bucket of his. So all this along here is clear. It's leveled out a little bit more so it's not pushed up directly up against the fence. This is nice and tidy up a little bit more now. And now I can actually, well, I can't latch my gate, but I can kind of shut it. The bobcat hit that post right there when he was clearing out the side for us. And now you can actually see our trees. I was originally going to dig up this hydrangea right here that I cut back because it's right in front of our back door. But I know someone who's interested in it, so I'll get her to dig it up and save me the trouble. I did leave a clematis climbing up here. I left it because I know it's not going to harm my hydrangea. It's not going to kill it. And I have plans to move it in the fall to just a better place for it. A couple points in the video, you may have seen me pause from digging up and pulling out the ivy and holding up things like this, like they were kind of hidden treasure. Well, they were buried treasure. I was quite literally digging them out, and they've actually been all over the yard. I've started a small collection with the ones that are still intact, and so far I've got this stack over here. And I pulled out, I don't know how many countless pieces of how many of those were broken, terracotta pots, things like that. I'm guessing the former owner had succulents in them, but who knows. If you did like this video, give us a thumbs up. And if you would like to see the other part of the backyard project of us working on the other half and then kind of finalizing what we're going to be doing in this whole backyard, make sure to subscribe, because we will, after our backyard, we will be working on the front yard. I have a few more projects lined up that we'd love for you to be part of.